Hello, and thank you for joining us. And today I have the privilege of talking to Genefa Murphy, who's the CMO of Five9. And, I've known Genefa for a number of years, and she's someone that has just a tremendous amount of passion, has been extremely successful, and I've got to watch her career grow over the years. And we were having a conversation earlier in the year, and she was telling me about her success. And it was at the same time that I've been developing the framework of E equals Y. And that framework is based on a formula of E3 to the power of E. And it starts with expression and being able to create the vision of what you're doing. And then it's about engaging your teams and the people that are around you to drive that success. You also need to have an element of execution, because you can have the best ideas, but if you don't execute, you don't actually see anything happen. And last but not least, it's really bringing the power of emotions to the table and being passionate, bringing your heart, being real. So when Genefa and I were talking, I realized that she was doing this naturally, whether she knew it or not. And so what we wanted to do was have a conversation and talk about her success, her career progression, where she's come from, where she's gone, and what has been her success, so that others can learn from that. Because it's one thing about reading books, but it's another thing about putting all of the leadership theories into practice. And that's what we really want to do, is help others be as successful as someone like Genefa is. So Genefa, thank you, and really appreciate you joining me and having this dialogue.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be able to have this discussion, Kathy. What you shared when we spoke last year just really resonated with me, and I think it's a tremendous framework, and it articulates it much better than I probably ever could. So kudos to you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. So let's start. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your projection and your what you've done from a career perspective.
Yeah, so I'm not a career marketer, if you will. So I right now am the Chief Marketing Officer at Five9, a job that I've been in for the past year, which I really enjoy, really like doing. But I actually came to marketing through product management. And prior to that, through consulting. So I started my career in research, and then I went into consulting. Then I went into product management, did some work with CTO office and architecture. And then I got into marketing. And I got into marketing because as a product manager, any of the marketers know out there, you've got two best friends, your product management team and your sales team. And I really got into it because I wanted to learn, but also, there was a lot of stuff in marketing that I was doing as a product manager, and there was some frustration as well. I won't lie. There was a frustration, a tension between product management and product marketing about how do we properly get this message out there? Are we doing the right campaigns? Do we have the right value props? And so I decided to jump over and say, okay, let me see what this marketing thing is all about. And I haven't looked back ever since, because for me, marketing is just it's a nexus of so many different things, and you get the opportunity to really, I believe, be at the core of the business, because you're close to customers, you're close to sales, you're close to product, and if marketing done right, you can really have an impact on the trajectory of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I experienced that firsthand with you as we went through some of this. But the thing also that really impressed me was when we were last working together directly, I think you had a team of 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was pretty small. I think it was definitely less than 5.
How big of a team? So I know you were at Micro Focus and now at Five9. How big has your team grown over the years?
Yeah, so I think my team sort of, I've had big teams, small teams. I think at its largest, I probably had a team of about 550. And right now I've got about a team of 50. So when I left HP Micro Focus to come to Five9, my team is smaller. The company's smaller as well. But at its height, I think my team was at around about 550. And not only that, it wasn't just marketing. I also used to own sales enablement as well. So I used to group my role into CMO into 3 buckets. It was method, message, and making it work. So the method was sales enablement, and that was sales and technical enablement. The message was your traditional product marketing, and the making it work was all of the demand gen, field marketing, brand, etc. So yeah, my team dynamics as a leader has changed, and I've had team sizes in between all of that. So 5 people, 10 people, and yeah, probably at one point I probably did have about 2 people.
So, and when you look at those as a dynamic as a leader, I think everyone's a leader, whether even if you're managing yourself, projects and things like that. But when you get to a team size of more than 10, you're not able to directly impact people, right? So you have to really think about how can you lead and drive change across people that you may not be able to touch every single day.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And I think for me, it's especially hard because I want to be involved. I want to know my team. I want to know what's going on because I like to be I think of myself as a relentless learner. So I want to be able to connect with all of the people in my team so that I can know what's going on, because ultimately, I take my responsibility as a leader. It's on me. It's on my shoulders. The success of my team is their success, but any failure or anything wrong, that's on my responsibility, my shoulders as a leader. So I like to be involved. I like to learn from my team. And so I think that's where some of the things that you talked about at the beginning, having that clear vision and being able to express that vision, being able to engage and connect with people, and then being able to execute and, importantly, bring those emotions into play. Because I think for the people, when you're a leader and you have your direct team or a small team and there's maybe only 10 of you, people get to know you, right? But then once you start to get into these bigger teams, it's like a persona. You end up having a persona. It's what people think about you if they don't get to work with you every day. And so they start to make certain assumptions. Oh, you're a C-level executive, so you must be like this. Oh, my prior CMO was like this, so you're like this as well. Oh, I heard you say something on a podcast, so I'm going to make an assumption. And that can be really dangerous and really frustrating for both sides. And so I think those things you articulated at the beginning become ever so more important as you start to scale as a leader.
Yep, no, that makes complete sense. So if you look at your different successes over the years, what's one or two of the successes you're most proud of?
Yeah, I think for me, definitely the transition out of HP and into Micro Focus. Why? Because it was just such an incredible experience, and to leave a behemoth like HP and sort of work on essentially setting up a completely new business. I mean, we had to set up everything, all the infrastructure from a marketing and IT perspective, process, technology, people. We were leaving all of that behind. And not only that, we were joining a company that was already well established, already had its own sort of set of ways, processes, technology, and to sort of have to extract all the people out of HP, bring them into Micro Focus, and then create a new reality, right? So at that time, we used to talk about, there was the HP team and the Micro Focus team. And part of what my role was and my leadership's team role was to bring it together to create something new that we felt was our version of our new reality. And that was something that was really hard. It was really tough because there was a lot of skepticism and there was time pressures, but it was also really satisfying to look back after 2, I would probably say even 3 years, and we had created our own culture of marketing. It wasn't, oh, this is the HP way, this is the Micro Focus way. This was our new way that we had created together as a team. And that for me was great, because it wasn't just a digital transformation, a technology transformation. It was a people transformation, and we evolved that culture together.
Excellent. Yeah, that's massive undertaking, right?
It was hard. It was tough. It was hard. And people will say, oh, hey, why didn't you leave after HP? Why did you want to go to a smaller company? Why did you want to go to, did you want to go and do some startup work? And the thing is I think what people often forget is when you work for these large companies like HP or like Micro Focus, you end up feeling like you're in multiple startups anyway. You end up feeling like you're in multiple companies anyway, because you get the opportunity to also work on so many different things. I'm so thankful for the experience that I got. I got to work directly with our senior leadership team, our board. I got to be on one point, due to what some would call in the PR world a bit of a crisis management situation, I got to be on the phone with Condoleezza Rice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool experience. So I'm definitely thankful for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And having come from that environment, all the things that you take for granted, but you learn how things can run at scale and what's needed to make it happen. And what I say is you learn what good looks like. You also learn what bad looks like.
Yeah.
The experiences are things that you can bring forth and really do help then when you get to the smaller companies where you can drive massive change then as well.
100%.
So when you look back on that transformation, what are some of the elements that you believe were success factors in making that happen?
Yeah, I think having that, again, go back to that, having that clear vision, right? Having a clear definition of what is the ideal end state and why are we doing this and why does it matter? So giving people context, I think that's really important. So giving people context, having a clear vision, articulating that vision and repeating the vision, and making sure people do understand why, and then bringing them along. So, one of the things that I did then, and I've brought into my role here at 5-9, is setting out what I call a sort of marketing manifesto, right? I come from a product management world. I come from the early days of Agile. Those of you familiar with that, familiar with the Agile manifesto, a sort of set of tenets or principles of how you work. And I've brought that forward into my current role. And what it does is it gives people a set of boundaries and a framework within which to work and which to operate and within which to make decisions. Because when you're going through a transformation of that size or any type of transformation, and especially going back to the point of when you have a slightly larger team, you can't always be there to say, oh no, we shouldn't take this path, we should take this path, or this is why we need to take decision A versus decision B. And so giving people a framework, giving people a sort of set of guiding principles, if you will, to help make their decisions themselves. One, it empowers your team to make decisions, which I think is really important when you want to move fast. And secondly, it ensures that you're empowering them within the sort of guidelines of getting to your ideal state.
Yep. No, I think that's fantastic. And that's, when you look at the E3 formula, that is the expression, right? Expressing what that ideal end state is, what it looks like, so that people then can march to that end state and not get caught up in the day-to-day. Like, what's the next step? Tell me what to do.
Yeah, and it's hard as a leader, right? Because sometimes as a leader, you spend so much time thinking about, well, what is the ideal end state? What is our 2022 strategy, our 3-year strategy, our 6-year horizon? And you spend so much time in it that you sometimes forget that not everybody else has spent that time in it. They haven't gone through iteration 25 of the deck, right? They're still on version 1 of the deck. Exactly. and so you have to, I think, and writing it down, that's actually a really important thing as well. Writing things down. It is taken for granted. We live in a world where we're all on video calls, we're all on conference calls. It's great to have meetings, but there's something to be said about writing it down and then giving that to your team to be able to look back on and reflect on themselves in their own time, I think is another key element.
Yep. No, excellent. And how did you're bringing a lot of people along on the journey. And so obviously you said you needed to express the ideal end state. How did you engage everyone? Because I assume not everyone was coming along at the same pace.
Yeah, I'm sure some people will be like, yeah, no, she didn't engage us. And it's a balance. I think, part of it is taking people through the thought process. So for me, especially your leaders, right? If you've got leaders of that you have a leadership team, bringing them along for the ride, getting their opinions, getting their discussions, and then using all of the different communication methods that you have out there, right? All hands, emails, Slack messages, informal Q&A, all of those different types of things. And then again, another thing that ties back into the guiding principles or the marketing manifesto that I brought forward into 5-9 is I have this concept of marketing all stars, and it's a sort of a rewards program, or where essentially every quarter everyone on the team can nominate someone else on the team based on the guiding principles, them showing it in action, them doing it in action. And it does a few things. One, it's great to be able to reward people for the right behavior. Two, by having people sort of nominate each other, it starts to identify and sort of creates that sense of teaming, that we're in this together. And then I think the third thing is it shows that it's not just about the what and the results, it is about the how as much as anything else. And it allows people to connect back to that, you know, strategy PowerPoint that you might have, or those guiding principles. So I think that's part of it. Regular communication, consistent communication, and then following it all the way through. Just think of it like a marketing campaign, right? You're doing an internal marketing campaign, and all of these different steps need to be connected. So every all hands you have, reiterating, what is our end state? What progress have we made? What have we got left to do? You know, your rewards programs, tying it back to the values. There's so many principles, I think, from both people engagement and HR, and then sort of communications that you can bring in to help bring people along the way.
Yeah, and so that last piece is, you know, what I hear you saying is there's structure to help you execute, right?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I think you have to. Yeah, definitely. All right, and execution is critical, because like you said at the beginning, you can't have a great idea without actually proving that you've made some progress, because people need to see that. And I think it's creating that balance between our ideal state might actually be, you know, maybe it's not something that's 6 months out, maybe it's not something that's a year out, maybe it's 2 years out, but we are making progress, we are getting there, we are improving, you know, we're continuing to execute, and people need to see that, right? People need to see that incremental progress is being made.
Yep. Now, one of the things I also know, you bring a ton of passion to the game. You bring I try self, right? How important do you think bringing your heart and your passion to leadership is?
I think it's critical. And I don't know any other way. And the thing is sometimes it can be disheartening as a leader, because, you know, I am very sort of open and honest and transparent in how I operate. When something's going well, I'll tell you. When something's not going well, I'll tell you as well. I think you have to be, especially in today's day and age, where just there's no time for BS. There's no time for the ridiculous politics that sometimes exist within teams. And I think people appreciate it when they see their leader being vulnerable. That could be admitting that they've made a mistake, admitting that they don't have the answer. You know, for me, I look at the leaders who I aspire to and who I admire, and that's what always drew me to them, because they were just honest and I believed them, and I could cut through the BS. And I think bringing your whole self, and, you know, I think especially the past 2 years, working remotely has enabled that to a certain extent, because now people are working from their homes. You get a little glimpse into people's inside life, which is fantastic, right? And you know, I have my kids will walk in and I'll be in the middle of a meeting and they'll be like, oh, hello. I'm like, okay, not the greatest time to talk right now, but they're part of who I am. They're part of who I am as a leader and as a person. And I need my team to understand that and to see that.
Yeah, that's the part that I love. I mean, you and I have been working globally for years, right? Mm-hmm. And you never had any personal stuff on those calls because you didn't want to lose your opportunity to be working from home or you know, not in the office. And yeah, no, I think this new hybrid working, I think, is fabulous in a new way that's going to help all of us.
It is, and yeah. So I mean, I just think, because people can see through it, right? If you're BSing them, if you're not genuine, people can see through it. People are smarter than that, and honestly, it's just a case of respect, right? I mean, as a leader, as a contributor to a team, I think, it's just having respect for other people that you bring your whole genuine, vulnerable self.
Yep. Well, speaking of respect, and I want to be respectful of your time, we got 2 minutes left. If you could give one piece of advice to young leaders today that are aspiring to drive their career forward, what would it be?
Work hard and be prepared to make sacrifices. It might be controversial, but I think if you want to lead, if you want to be successful, there is sometimes something that has to give. Sometimes it's a little thing. Other times it might be something bigger, but you won't get anywhere without that working hard, having some sacrifices. And the last thing I would say is have a vision and articulate the logic of that vision. You got to have a point of view. If you don't have a point of view, then you can't expect anybody to come along with you for the ride and get on board and challenge that point of view and make that point of view even better. So start with having a point of view, then work hard and understand and appreciate that at some point you will have to make some sort of sacrifice.
Excellent advice. Great. Well, Genefa, thank you so much. I appreciate all your time.
Thank you, Kathy. Absolute pleasure to connect with you again.
Thanks.